Good evening and welcome. I am Sarah Todd. I am the owner and director of Unite Health, and I am so excited to be running this Pilates Pillow Talk session with Michael Ramsey, co-founder of Strong Pilates. Michael has had the most incredible journey from opening and selling 6 successful F45 franchises, exiting just before COVID kicked off, to then going on to launch his Strong Pilates phenomenon with his business partner, Mark Armstrong. Strong is a force to be reckoned with. They are now in 11 countries with over 80 studios opening and are just growing at such a phenomenal rate. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Michael to this evening's session.
Hello.
Hello, thank you so much, Michael. We are so grateful to have you here and allowing us some of your time in your busy schedule. So thank you so much. I know our audience will get heaps out of the session. What I'd love to do is just to kick off on your journey, how you and yours, Mark, kind of got into the F45 franchise and how you identified that opportunity at such early days, I know, to be the 10th studio that opened.
Yeah, and yeah, you got all the stats right about Strong, so well done. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy one actually. It's we were number 10 in the world. So think about it today. There's probably I think there's a couple of thousand around the globe. So to be an early adopter was certainly challenging. But look, I've always been a PT. I was working in gyms since I was probably 17.
Wow.
And did a marketing degree as well, and then I was in marketing, and nothing was really clicking for me. I'd gone through different marketing jobs. I was in the oil and gas industry. I'd worked in sort of the boating sort of industry, and moved to Hamilton Island and tried all this sort of stuff, and nothing was really clicking for me. And fitness was always my passion. I eventually was back in Melbourne and actually running a nightclub with with my business partner Mark. He was my boss, and he said, "Look, mate, I've stumbled across this concept called F45." He said, "I'd love to do it." He said, "I think you'd be great because you've got the marketing element and the personal training background, and I'd love to do it with you." And because I wasn't really overly thrilled with what I was doing in my career, I was just sort of like, "Stuff it, I'll give it a go." Um, so we got the next flight out to Bondi. We tried F45. I did the class and felt like it was exactly what the industry was missing. It was all the elements of, yeah, strength training, conditioning, but in this really cool group fitness format. There was a DJ playing, the class packed, the vibes are high, and I was like, wow, I really need to get into this. So we ended up negotiating the rights for 2 territories in Melbourne. We had no money, so we actually was able to negotiate for free. We brought on 2 AFL players, Jimmy Bartell and Dyson Heppel, and we never paid a cent for the territories. And the contra was because we're in the nightclub space, and we're sort of rubbing shoulders with people in media and things like that. We're able to do a contra deal for PR. And then, yeah, we launched F45 Port Melbourne. I think it was back in like 2015, maybe. And it just, like, obviously being a new brand, the first 6 months were a struggle, but we just worked harder and harder, and days and nights and early mornings. And eventually that studio grew to be the #1 studio around the world 3 years running. And then we just invested in another studio and another studio and another studio, and just kept going. And then sort of around 2019, we decided we'd had enough, and we sold all our locations, and that was sort of when the concept of Strong was born.
And with that, I guess one like that, it's so incredible. Yeah, that story about working with your manager and then how it evolved. Did you know like that time to sell and time to exit? Had you guys already been thinking about it for a while? Because it definitely seems like you exited at the most perfect time pre-COVID. Yeah, had it been in the pipeline, or was it like we're ready to get out?
Yeah, great question. It was, look, the writing was on the wall for us. Obviously, COVID, no one saw coming, but we, like, I'm a firm believer in innovation and constantly innovating a product or a service. We were kind of doing the same thing for a while. Our average lifetime value was actually decreasing because the style of training, and this is kind of where Pilates comes into it, and also the thought around strong. The style of training was so high impact and high intensity that our members were sore, they were getting injured, and we weren't sustaining them for long periods after sort of 4 years of operations. So for us, it was a pretty, yeah, it was a pretty easy decision. It was a big shock to the F45 network because we're very much leaders in that space, but we just knew that the I guess Australia as a whole was very saturated. There were lots and lots of studios. We had Port Melbourne and then we had South Melbourne, which was 1.9 kilometers down the road. So there was a lot of supply of studios, and we just felt the time was right. The brand was peaking, and that was the time to get out.
How amazing. And then, so to go from franchisee to franchisor, was that conversations that started early days with yourself and Mark to be like, should we do this ourselves? And then probably dives into Strong Pilates being born. Yeah, can you talk us through that jump from F45 to Strong?
Yeah, it was. I was constantly pitching to F45 head office for different
Wow.
ideas around programming equipment. I would pitch them different marketing campaigns, and they would just, I mean, big company generally falls on deaf ears with that sort of thing. So um, myself and Mark always thought we could not necessarily do it better, but do it different and do it more streamlined. And we learnt so much as a franchisee. I often say, anytime I speak on podcasts and things like that, it really was the best apprenticeship. And there's a lot of fantastic founders that have come out of F45 that have started different fitness concepts. But we always felt that we had our own ideas about how running a franchise should be, and then yeah, I guess once we sold out, we were really looking for the next big thing.
And how did you find that next big thing? I know I've listened to
Mm.
the podcast and read, but yeah, just to share with our audience, how did you guys find the reformer and scale it basically from first studio? Was it always a plan to be a franchisor?
Yeah, it was. I was an Adidas ambassador, and I was doing this photo shoot where it was very street. I was in Sydney. It's like jump over shopping trolleys and do all this sort of cool stuff. And within the first 10 seconds of shooting the commercial for the new runner, I broke my ankle, and so um, I was really really struggling with my ankle at the time. And a friend of mine, he was a clinical Pilates teacher, and his mum was a clinical Pilates teacher, and he used to teach out in Perth at her studios, and now he's in Melbourne, and he just took me through like a rehab process with my ankle, and it was, at first I was like, what, what's this? Surely this is going to help. And not only did it fix my ankle, but all the sort of little inefficiencies I had in my movement patterns and things like that fixed. Like everything was solved just after a few sessions with him. So I fell in love with Pilates,
Yeah.
but me being the person that I am, felt I needed a little bit more. So I needed to sweat a little bit more. I needed to lift a little bit heavier, and because I wasn't getting the satisfaction out of a 45-minute reformer workout. And at the time, my housemate who I was living with, she showed me this reformer on Instagram, and it was at a studio in Orange County in LA, sorry, in California. And I just thought, wow, this is kind of everything that I think I need right now. So I jumped on a flight, tried the machine. It was the most amazing experience because not only was I getting all those benefits of reformer, but I just remember doing a really hard row set because the row is attached now, and then going into a plank under resistance and being so gassed, and my heart rate was elevated for the whole time, and I was just so amazed by I guess, the endorphin rush, by the intensity of the workout, but everything was still low impact. So it was just like tick, 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 tick. Like this all makes so much sense to me physiologically as a concept. And then we spoke to the creator of the machine and we negotiated the rights. Now globally, we have them for the Roformer, and we built a franchise concept around that. And ended up launching like literally 2 months before COVID.
Wow. Like that is just amazing, isn't it? Like just even that journey to launching the concept of Strong Pilates. And I know you originally, I'm quite close to where your first studio opened, and you originally launched as Roformer without the Pilates. Like what made you thread in that Pilates to become Strong Pilates in your brand?
Yeah, we as we were programming more, we found ourselves kind of moving away from, originally it was very sort of Legree focused, and we found that like a lot of the talent in Melbourne, and a lot of the people who are helping us with programming were very much Pilates people, and we kind of altered the workout to be more Pilates inspired than kind of, let's say, Legree, and we wanted to really stand out in the Pilates space. So it was a very deliberate decision to change the name to Pilates. Um, I'll tell you, it wasn't easy. We copped a lot in the Pilates space. Like people were saying, Joseph Pilates will roll over in his grave. What's going on? There's a rower attached to a reformer. And but long term, it seems to have been the right decision. And we're included in now all the big sort of major research things that go out about the Pilates industry. We're always top of mind there now, and I think yeah, we're Pilates, but we're rowing and we're strength training, and we're that little bit more. But I think the hard and soul of the product is still Pilates.
And with like your programming, how does that all work for you guys with how you create your programs, how often you roll them out? Just for our audience, hopefully most people have attended a class, but in case they haven't attended a class, like what could they expect from a Strong Pilates class?
Yeah, so programming itself is, we've got a few Pilates experts. We've got strength and conditioning, exercise physiologists, and everyone sort of works together to create each component. And then we have a testing team of about 20 people who test the programming in advance, make sure that everything flows well. And yeah, then that goes out, that sort of nice collaboration of different genres in the fitness space goes out to the 22,000 members that we have. But you can experience anything from, well, we have the bike now, so you ride or you row, you pick your weapon of choice when you start a class. You can do anywhere from just a like no rowing or riding at all. You can just do a generic Pilates class. You can do a very sort of high intensity where you might be doing 5 or 6 row sets throughout and still doing Pilates flows. You can do, progressive overload where you're lifting dumbbells up to 30 kilos. You're stopping, resting, resetting, and getting those muscle adaptations where you're really building lean muscle. And there may only be a 10-minute Pilates flow in that class, and you're just doing heavy weights with a little bit of rowing or riding. So there's a lot of diversity in classes, and I think this is the problem that we've been trying to solve. Pilates is incredible, and people will pay 25, 30, up to $45 I've seen for a Pilates class. But to get people on a membership and for them to be paying $75 a week to try something, I find that you need a bit more of a full solution that is going to give you, a little bit of cardio. So it's great for your heart health. You're going to burn calories, you're going to build lean muscle, and then you're going to get all those amazing benefits of Pilates. So yeah, we've tried to solve that problem of how do we get people to sign up and train 7 days a week. And that's why the programming is so diverse.
So great. And just trying to be that one-stop shop. So you don't need your Pilates membership, your gym membership, your other membership. That's really, really amazing. Um, for anyone who hasn't tried the concept, do you mind just kind of giving us an overview just of the strong concept as such, where it's that Pilates infused with low impact? And I know it came from your rehab, but yeah, just for anyone who hasn't tried a class, what they would expect.
Yeah, so if you want me to break it out to like a literal class, like this is our hero class, strong body. You might roll in to class. When you sign up on the app, you can pick let's say you pick a rower. You might start and you might do a 4-minute row block. And that might be 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, warm the body up. And then we'll shift to the reformer and we'll do a 10-minute lower body flow. And then we'll go back to the rower and then we'll do another sort of 4 minutes of rowing. But this time it might be, 90 seconds on, it might be endurance based. And then you go back to the reformer, you might do an upper body flow. And then you go back to the rower, and then the last one might be core, right? So body is very much upper, lower, core. And the cool thing is, and I got absolutely crucified when I brought the TVs in, but it's been a real winner for us, particularly getting men into Pilates. We brought in the TVs, so you've got an avatar video, sometimes bird's eye view, just really clear of what the exercise is. And unlike F45, where everything's on a timer, the instructor clicks through. So it's still instructor led. They control all the timing and they change the exercises when they need to, but they can keep people there in holds for longer. They can push them to work harder through certain periods, and it's still very instructor led. So you've got the tech on the screens. And then, when you're rowing, the music will go to like deep house, it's high energy, and the lights will go down. But when you're doing Pilates, the lights are up. It might be R&B playing, and we try and get that real kind of, I guess, make it a proper experience for everyone. And then at the end of the workout, you get your cold towel that's been soaked in eucalyptus oil.
I did
You
love
throw on
that.
your face. Yeah.
I loved it when I went. I was like, beautiful.
Yeah, it's a little treat for everyone's hard work. But yeah, that's sort of the basis of it. But there's a lot of intricacies with the programming and the different equipment and the things that we're doing. So it's really something you need to experience a few times, I think.
Oh, how cool. Well, yeah, if you haven't been, guys, definitely check it out. There are so many locations. I guess what I'm keen to dive into next is you have scaled a phenomenal business since 2019 to an annual turnover over 35 million, which is just hats off to you guys. So impressive. How have you scaled this? Has it been really intentional? And what have been some of your challenges that you've overcome over the way of the last 5 years?
Yeah, it was very intentional. Today, we've got 80 studios and probably another 200 on the way. We've sold 80 in the US as well, which is where I'll be moving later this year. But the scaling and the franchise model was super intentional. If you told me 5 years ago we'd have 80 studios, I probably would have laughed. But it's funny how the goalposts change as you progress through the journey. And now, we're shooting for 300 around the world. But yeah, we just did that by, creating an incredible experience, getting really good operators involved, and just not bullshitting people as well, just being super transparent on our business model and the costs involved and what we do and how we're different. And the good thing is, and this is one thing that I saw early on when we launched the brand, we didn't have the normal public training at Strong. We had all the Pilates teachers from around the area training at Strong. So we knew we were onto something very special when the industry really embraces it. And then, it's just, I guess the consumer has now led the way, because if the consumer loves it, there's demand, and we've been able to scale. I guess the big challenges, I would say, are mainly probably launching into international markets. And I'll give you an example. So 32% of Australia have a gym membership right now, which is probably pretty decent, on a global scale. Japan, that we just launched, has got 4% of their population has a gym membership. So, what we've had to do there, and there's huge opportunities in Japan. There's 1,500 anytime fitnesses. So it's not like, there isn't a big fitness scene, but what we've had to do is really regress programming and really sort of focus on those beginner classes to ease people into it. And we find these, socioeconomic challenges every time we go into a new market. So that's really been the big one. We'll be in 14 countries this year, but it's so interesting working through each country. Even in America, each state is so different, and just working through all these challenges have been incredible. I'm learning so much, but it's just such an awesome ride.
That's so cool, Michael. And I guess that probably leads to you are a busy man. You've got a young family. Like, how do you juggle it all? Yeah, yeah. How are you managing the growth, the international? You can't be everywhere. Yeah. How do you manage it all?
Systems and staff, really. I've got an incredible team in Melbourne. I think we're kind of approaching 20 odd in our head count. And then, we've got 600 incredible instructors globally. So it's like setting up those systems, and a lot of it is the academies that we run, and selection of instructors and things like that, but really leaning on the staff and having good training systems, relying on people like you guys as well. But it's like, yeah, it's really something that you can't do yourself, and you need to learn at some point to kind of step back a little bit and bring in a management team, and let people do their roles. So yeah, and I feel like today we're in the next growth phase of the business, and that's going to look very, very different to last year. So it's like this constant iteration of the team and the structures and the investments that go on, and everything like that.
And how do yourself and Mark, like, how do you split kind of that co-founder role? Like, what's your favorite things to work on, or what are you tasked with versus Mark in your business partnership?
Mark's done an incredible job at building the brand. So he looks after pretty much all the franchise sales. He's now stepped back from Australia, but he's been living in the US for the last year. So he's already sold 80 plus locations, and he's very much client facing. He's, and in terms of like the co-CEO role, like my role is pretty much marketing performance. And then I like to sort of annoy the movement team and the academy team. But Mark's great because I can bounce anything off him, whether it's a marketing campaign or the next hire, and we just go back and forth. I think we'd send probably 100 WhatsApp messages a day, and that's how we kind of co-manage the business, and then that gets filtered down to our managers, which then gets filtered down to the rest of the staff, which then goes to the franchisees and then the members. So yeah, it's a really nice working relationship, and me and Mark have been doing this for over 10 years now together since they're 45. So it's working, and I'm very fortunate to have him.
That's really lovely and really amazing that, yeah, you found such a beautiful working relationship over such a long period, and such a tribute to, yeah, your success globally for it. How would you, Michael, describe your leadership style in the business?
Yeah, I like our staff trying new things. Like I don't, when mistakes are made, like they don't really bother me. I just like people having a crack.
Yeah.
Um, at the same time, like I am a pretty harsh marker, and I guess I've got really big expectations, and I guess growth expectations. So, like, one thing I don't really like, and one thing I've tried to kind of stamp out of our staff, is that sort of cognitive dissonance, where it's like, we weren't able to achieve this, call it pre-sale number for this studio because of this reason. Like for me, it's all about the results, and we just need to do everything that we can to deliver an incredible product, deliver a business that's also profitable to franchisees, and then deliver something that members love. And I just think if everyone's having a crack, and everyone's on board, and we're working collaboratively, we can do it. But I'll tell you, like, it's super challenging. It's like, it's uncharted waters. This like space in the Pilates industry or the fitness industry doesn't actually exist yet. Like, no one's really combined strength, cardio, and reformer together in a turnkey solution. So we're kind of, I wouldn't say we're running blind here, but we're sort of, we need to be nimble, we need to try new things, and we need to be really bold in the way that we go about things.
That's, yeah, so cool. And I think just that attitude as well, like getting every staff to give it a go, where it's like, yeah, innovative, yeah, proactive. Is such a cool leadership style. One, I've know we've already got a few minutes left. I have so many questions I'd love to spend all day with you, but I guess maybe best to dive into next is that looking ahead. So you're moving to the US, you have a huge amount of growth there. What does, yeah, the next 12 months look like for you guys, not only in the US, but globally?
Yeah, I mean, we're onboarding 14 Australian studios right now. I think we'll probably open another 30 this year. Um, the US, yeah, we'll open probably 25 this year. Japan just launched. Korea is about to launch. Dubai is about to launch. Um, Canada's doing really well. We've just now kind of gone into partnership with our UK master. So now we're really focusing on London as a whole. And that's been really good. We've got a bunch of studios coming through. So there's lots of growth from a studio level, but there's also a lot of cool stuff we're working on from like an innovation perspective. So we've just launched a reverse spring system, which is, more sort of a strength Pilates component. But in the next kind of call it 6 to 12 months, we've got some really cool tech stuff coming in. So all the innovation is now going to be tech moving forward, and the sole purpose of our innovation is to increase average customer lifetime. So we want customers staying longer, and all the innovation stuff is going to help them on their fitness journey. So super interesting time.
That's really cool. And just that, yeah, that embracing tech is just amazing and definitely
You
going
have to.
ahead of the game in so many ways. Absolutely. Oh, and Michael, but instructors or anyone kind of new Pilates instructors, like what advice would you give for anyone looking to break into the Pilates world right now, be it become an instructor, open a studio, become a strong franchisee? What would your advice be given, yeah, your journey?
One thing I really hold in really high regard whenever I speak to a potential franchisee or a potential staff member is them having gotten in there and done the workout and knowing the brand beforehand. It's just it's just something that if we can have a conversation fluidly about strong Pilates and you've been there, you've done that, you've experienced it, you're passionate, like that for me is the best thing ever, and that's where we find a lot of our staff when we interview them and that sort of thing. They've done the homework. So for me, that's a really really big positive. I'm super big on the mix of, particularly with Pilates teachers, the mix of technical ability, but also that real personality. I think the number one attribute for our successful studios is actually instructors saying the names of the clients and instructors knowing the clients and making them feel comfortable, and having that mix of technical and being on show and personable, like, is a dream to me. So I think working on the two skill sets in conjunction, I think, is super important. And I think it is something that you can learn. You can learn to. I was the most introverted person ever before I started at 45, and I was taking every single class every day. We were doing classes of 72 people, and I had to learn to be a big personality. And I think it's all teachable. So yeah, I guess, sorry, was that, I
Oh,
hope
no, that's really cool. And I think you touching on that
question.
being introverted, I was so surprised when I heard you say that because I was like, oh, you come across as such an extrovert. But yeah, like the fact that you've just been able to teach yourself that over time and being in the industry. We do only have 1 minute left. And my final question is, I'd love to know, like, how often do you go to strong Pilates classes? I know you've got one close by to where you're living now. Yeah, how often are you getting into the classes?
I try at least 3, 4 times a week. I've been the last 2 days, but when I don't go, if I'm traveling, I really miss it. And like right now, my ankle's sore again, my back's sore. And I did yesterday's class, and there was this beautiful single leg flow that just got my ankle going. And then I felt a million times better. Then there was this reverse fly with the cables, and my body just felt better. And it just feels like every time I do it, it's exactly what I need. And so I try and get in there as much as I can. I love Pilates. I love the cardio element as well. So yeah, minimum sort of 3-4 times.
Right. Oh, well, we have come to the end of the session, Michael. I literally could probably speak to you for 24 hours, ask you all the questions, but thank you so much. You are such an inspiration, and such an incredible story so far. And I'm just like, you're only in the early days. So we can't wait to watch this space. And we do have so many instructors who do the training with us who go on to work at Strong. So firstly, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. And to those who are on the call today, we do have a special discount for anyone enrolling onto our Pilates instructor certification, a $200 discount using the voucher code STRONG Pilates at checkout. So if you're keen to start working for Michael and Mark's amazing brand, we definitely have the course for you. So thank you so much again, Michael, and thank you to the audience for joining us.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Bye.